there's a billboard that I just saw with in bold letters, heaven or hell, you choose. And I'm like, man, it's always the joke is on us, the ones that are vehemently projecting something out into the field, right? It's really the joke is on us every time. Like, what they don't understand is that type of level of condemnation and judgment and projection is really just fortifying and solidifying themselves more and more into the hell consciousness of duality. So I just find it fascinating because I'm in a deeply humble place right now, and just like the ways that I'm like recounting and remembering, you know, all the ways in which I have projected out not only like my own stuff unconsciously, but projected out my traumas and my wounds, you know, to then create that reality. And it's like, how do you know? This is so interesting. It's like, how do we know really what to do when all we've ever done is what we've ever done, what we've ever been shown? And so it's a really vulnerable place, actually. It's a beautiful, exciting, and vulnerable and fresh place to be in, to ask the deeper questions of like, how can this be easier? How can I show up? I think this is actually, there's a thing now that it's coming to mind, someone told me about, is access consciousness. It's like, how can this be easier? Asking these kinds of questions. Maybe Google it. I'm not sure. But, you know, hell is a state of being, and it can be unbeknownst to us, you know, because a lot of us are just so comfortable and familiar with suffering, because this planet is so incredibly dense with so much influences happening that we don't really know the forest from the trees sometimes, because our egos, the separate selves, the astral forces, the discarnate souls, like all this influence, there's so much input coming in, you know, there's so much input. And I think what was so cool about that virus that happened in 2020, it really, I think, woke us all up to like the unsustainable ways in which we had been living and interfacing with life that we no longer can actually do. And so a lot of it's been come up, you know, a lot of these reality checks have been coming up in, I think, our nervous systems. I feel like a toddler. So, you know, I think an honest, like, anything that you feel like so vehemently intense about and convicted about, I think it's really safe to say that there's some ego there and some self-delusion. And I think, you know, it's so cool about God, like not the God, like Old Testament God, or like the God that we project to be, but like actual source energy God, and all the beings that in the hierarchy of the ascended realm, you know, it's like trickster energy, really, when you think about it, because there's a way that's shown, and we follow this outer way, like the outer path of like, I have to do this, this, and this in order to get some redemption, or in order to feel right or good, or, you know, prim and proper, and doing all the good things and the right stuff. And it's really, sometimes like the way can be like this rigid path, and to realize like the looseness that is actually there and the freedom that is actually there, to be able to really see yourself. So, for example, like, you know, I saw certain behavioral patterns of my dad's up until now, like still seeing certain behavioral patterns that he's had play out throughout his life in regards to defense mechanisms and ways that he would protect himself by not really by immediately othering the other and making the other person the enemy, and going to extreme lengths to create distance and space because of his pain that he did not know how to deal with or to cope with or to be able to articulate or to be able to collaborate in with like a functional, caring way. You know, he's come a long way, but you know, I grew up with this level of that modeled to me, right? And so I've actually, the thing that I've been so vehemently opposed to, like being like my dad or being like this or being like my mom, you know, like, oh, I'm not like that, I'm not like that, I'm not like that. And the trickster energy, really, because I am deceiving my own self unbeknownst to me, because my little ego and my whatever conscious selves, you know, or just like, yeah, you're, you know, reinforcing that delusion, you know, because it's what I want to see, not what is actually happening, right? Because a lot of us, when we're on that drama triangle of persecutor, like my dad would enact the persecutor and also the victim, like hardcore, I find myself doing the same thing, especially whenever I'm wounded or I'm creating, you know, I'm having to create space in order to cope with the heartbreak. It's like I go into persecutor, you know, and victim, and I just see it play out in same but different ways, same shit, different day, you know? And to be able to see that and call forth like deeper change, because like my higher self is calling me home. You know, my higher self that I have invoked into being for decades now. Not decades, but a decade at this point. Like the greatest and highest version. For the greatest and highest good of all, which means evolution for us all, right? To be able to acknowledge and take responsibility, because the only way that you can exist on the drama triangle is if you were not taking responsibility for yourself. The only way you could ever, and it's delusion. What's the glue that's holding that triangle together is delusion. Is delusion of oneself. You know? And looking at life through a particular filter. And it usually stems from childhood. And some would even say from past lives. But I'm just going to stick with my own childhood because this has been rich enough. Like, past lives, I don't know about all that, I'm sure. But all I know was what's the treasure trove of trauma that I have been able to discover. And this particular lifetime is enough. Like, and in the ancestral lineage of rich material that has been, you know, excavated for me to pinpoint, oh, that makes so much sense why this is the way it is, and blah blah blah. And you know, not to get so caught up in the stories and the analyzing and the whys, but the brain likes to have answers to things. And again, everything is always working out for us. This isn't a philosophy, this is reality, this is quantum physics. Life is always giving us what we're putting out. You know, that image, that mirror image from the inside out. And so, you know, if you steal from a store, or if you cuss someone out, or you know, send back the wrong thing on Amazon, you know, that you were returning, you know, it all comes back. All comes back. And that's not to say that you would be trapped in some never-ending thing, but it comes back energetically for you to then see and take responsibility for and forgive your own self for it. Because that's the thing. When you're faced with the reality mirror right in front of you and you can't deny what has been, what you have created in your life, that requires, again, responsibility, honesty, humility, forgiveness, trust, and love, because you're not going to continue to be punished, because every moment is a choice that you can make towards who you actually want to be and the life that you actually want to live with complete and total agency over everything in your life, you know? To an extent, there's some boundaries there, you know, there's some limitations there. So, I am working with that, you know, I'm working with really integrating a lot of the lessons that I've learned in the last long while, my 20s, basically. It's funny, actually, because I'm 29 and I'm in this unconsciously just reflection period of how I've chosen to be and enact unconsciously, because it's not like anyone's to blame. It's not about blame. It's not about shame. Again, we're getting off that drama triangle. It's not about who's at fault. It just is what it is. Choices were made and consequences have played out because of said choices. It's a neutral thing. You make a decision and you experience the consequences of that decision. Period. That's how you grow. That's it. It's a neutral experience. And if you experience pain or you experience expansion and joy or anything in between, you know, that's information. And a lot of us have been hardwired, like I said in the beginning of the video, towards pain and suffering and torture because of the ways in which we've been tortured by those that have done their best to love us, but we're also tortured. You know, there's so much torture on the planet that has been passed down, like ways of being. There's been a lot of negative forces out there, you know, to get us to choose differently so that they become obsolete and no longer necessary, because they were invited onto the planet to shake some shit up, and boy, have they shooken some shit up and created a lot of havoc. But that was, you know, that was the choices made by those that invited those forces into this world. And I think the trajectory of this planet is on an upward spiral towards ascension, because at least that's what I see, you know, because that's what I'm choosing for myself. You know, everyone has their right to choose, but I choose to take responsibility for myself, and that's how you get there. That's how you get there. You don't ascend, my little lovely light workers and new agers, by just like continuing to spiritually bypass and not take responsibility for yourself and still being on the drama triangle. And I just acknowledge that I just spew some little stabby energy, I think maybe even towards myself, because and all that I was involved with, but really like they were like the forerunners, all the new age people that I was, you know. I've been talking about this stuff 10 years ago. I was talking about this stuff, and now my whole physiology is catching up, you know. It's sometimes it's like we cast the seeds out before we even know what the hell we're even really talking about. Like, I watch back some of my videos that I never even published on my YouTube channel, and I'm like, who are you? You didn't even know what you were talking about, and the words that you were saying is like beyond me right now. Like, who are you? Like, so that was, I mean, it's just true. I mean, so anyways, I'm really grateful to be taking responsibility for myself in my life and to not be a victim anymore, to not be persecuting. I understand that this is a process of integration because new pathways are being made, and there is a life and a consciousness that I'm here to claim, not to just visit every so often. Like, I'm here to take residency in as my baseline as I move forward beyond the Saturn returns. Like, this foundation, this is the foundation right here, what we're talking about. And no more will my foundation be the drama triangle. My foundation is an elevated form of consciousness that does not perpetuate victimhood, war consciousness, or this martyr savior complex. I mind my own business to the greatest possible ability that I can, and I just keep bringing my energy back home to me, because again, we're all so used to having all of our energy all the way out there, you know. And so it's like calling our energy back, utilizing the resources to call your energy back. I think especially women, we've been programmed to just keep, it's like really ass backwards. Like, we've been programmed to just fix it, do it, be codependent. I mean, all of us to different varying degrees, but there has been a programming of women. And so as we come back home to ourselves and stop chasing the thing out, especially men, we've been totally fucking ass backwards. And I'm still learning more about, like, the dynamic of women and men, but it seems like it's a whole thing for a different video. So for now, thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being with me. I hope this adds value to your life, and I will see you in my next video.